Model 1902 Army Officers Sword. History. By the early 1870s, combat experience convinced many American military officers that swords had, at best, a tertiary role in the modern Army. Given its lack of usage during the American Civil War and Indian Wars, many objected to the weight of carrying the Model 1850 Army Staff and Field Officers' Sword. This led to the introduction of the Model 1872 Army Staff and Field Officers' Sword, a significantly lighter design that was essentially a ceremonial weapon to be used by officers mainly as a sign of rank and a tool to point out items to those under their command. However, many disliked the idea of carrying a purely ceremonial weapon in combat, and the 1872's delicate design proved ill-suited to the rigors of military use in the field. Some officers took to carrying cavalry sabers, or not carrying any sword at all. Eventually, the M1902 was developed in response to requests for a light, cut, and thrust weapon that soldiers can actually fight with. The final design of the M1902 was the result of many years of study and experimentation by Henry V. Allen and Company in collaboration with several Army officers after they approached Mr. Allen privately and requested he develop a more effective saber for the U.S. military. After many years of research by Mr. Allen, including numerous trips to Europe and making a number of patterns with both straight and curved blades, a final design was completed and laid before General John C. Kelton, who was noted as being a skilled swordsman. He recommended making it less curved from center to point, the latter to be in line with the gripe, so as to give greater force in thrusting. Years later, in June 1902, a board met in Washington, D.C. to develop new regulations for Army uniforms, part of which induced the adoption of a new regulation saber. Henry V. Allen and Company submitted 5 patterned swords for the Uniform Board's consideration, 3 with straight blades and 2 with curved, and the Ordnance Department submitted a similar number. The result was that of the 10 patterns, one of the Allen swords was adopted, the very one approved by General Kelton. Although regarded as a significant improvement over the 1872, praise was not universal for the M1902. Although the Uniform Board contained several highly experienced and decorated officers, none were noted as experts in swordplay. The board's membership was selected to present a diverse set of military knowledge, as it also had to consider many other items of clothing and equipment, and was rather different than it might have if the adoption of a new regulation sword was its primary concern. The resulting M1902 pattern sword was considered a compromise between lightness and efficiency, with several members of the Ordnance Board questioning if such a light blade could still be effective in combat during a 1905 review of the sword. Nonetheless, the review eventually recommended maintaining the current pattern saber, and the M1902 remains the regulation sword for officers of the U.S. Army. The M1902's modern role is completely ceremonial, and it is virtually never carried except in parades and ceremonies by commissioned officers in command of troops in formation. It is also used by United States Air Force officers for their parades and ceremonies. As a presentation saber, the M1902 is also sometimes given to newly commissioned officers of distinction or as retirement or change of command gifts.